Line up in the morning and stare at your shoes, like meat for a gaffer to pick and to choose. With a tap on the shoulder, he gives you the sign. You can hump call all day for 2 shillings and 9. I'm telling you, Jack, life's not the same when you spend your day loading that 100 ton.
Before containerisation, before forklifts, the job is really labour intensive and hard work. Paddy Nevin is going to give us an insight into the bogies and the hard work. He was a very hard worker himself.
Why you laugh?
When I was being watched.
He's okay to sit down.
Sit down.
You tried to say you wouldn't be able to stand up.
My name is Paddy Nevins. I started on the docks in the early 60s when the work on the dock was beginning to pick up. I lived on the south side, so I was a regular user of the ferry going across in the morning time. Sometimes I'd get there early in the morning, about 7 o'clock, for the ferries arriving, because sometimes the tide would be too low for the ferry to get into the point down below there. And you had to make your way, run around to Hedges Corner, where there was always water there deep enough for the ferries to get across. And the busiest period on the docks, there was actually 2 ferries running back and forward for the amount of men that was working there. And then at a certain time, one would leave and go up the Cardiff Lane and do the shorter route. So sometimes you go down and there would be no ferry because the weather would be so bad, the ferry wouldn't be able to run. So there'd be panic stations trying to get back up the Rings End to get a bus into town and then make your way around out here and then down the quay, trying to make your way in time for the raid. Because the raid didn't delay for anybody. If you weren't there, that was it. You were late. Everybody else was implied, and you missed your chance of getting the job for that particular day. So when I started on the Dutch course, I wasn't known by anybody. So you're standing in a raid like this, and the numbers are getting fewer as the men are being called, and you're standing there, you know, how am I going to be called? Nobody knows me. So the numbers keep thinning out all the time, and you're standing there, and eventually the stevedores go now in names, and you start pointing you, and you're hoping that the finger will be pointed your way. And when it came anywhere near you, you'd make a move just in case it was being pointed at you. So that was the way, until such time as you kind of got to know the work and made a name for yourself. That's the way the situation was. You were left there with the end of I would say the dregs of society or whatever, but you walk down that road. So with some of the men that were actually in the raids could be from dust houses around, you know, and you ended up in the morning time down looking for a day's workers or whatever. That's what made up the amount of men on the docks. All kinds of walks of life, from barristers, solicitors to people in lodging houses coming down for work. But when you did get a job, the first place you went was the gear shed, where you'd pick up your whatever gear was ready, whatever gear was necessary for the job you were going to do. There was lots of different commodities come through the port. I have a list of them there. There must have been about 50, 60 size of newspaper, bags, sugar, meat being exported. There's lots of different commodities and lots of different rates on different jobs. There was even rates for cattle, sheep. I think it was 8p. You're looking at there, 8p for the sheep. So below so many sheep you got per head, you got 8p per head. But when you went to the gear shed, you got your ropes. If it was a bike boat, you took up each man, there was 6 men employed per inside. Each man would get a couple of ropes each. Or if it was general cargo, you got trays, these trays for putting the general cargo on. And you'd also get a bogey. You try to get there early, get the Rolls Royce with a bogey, because if you weren't there, you get the worst ones. And maybe the wheels would be flat, they'd be Jordan wheels, and the hands were pulling it, would be all bent, so you try and get down early to make it as handy as possible for the rest of the day's work. So there was one particular ship used to come in, the name was the Bangor Head, and the raid was the bogies oil, the men well fed, they're all in the raid for the Bangor Head. And this was a ship that came from, I think it was Finland, with newsprint and liner board. And the liner board being, you know the way ships are, you see ships the way they're pointed and that. The first hatch, it's okay from the outside, but when you get into the hatch, you're going down, and as you go down along the ship, the hatches are more square, where the newsprint would be. But up in the number 1 hatch and number 4 hatch at the upper end of the ship would be plywood, and there'd be big bales of plywood, very difficult to handle. You were all right when they left the factory in Finland, but again, you got to Dublin, they were in a bit of rag order, and that, you know, they were very difficult to sling and discharge out. But anyway, you went to the ship. When you were in the raid, if you got a job at the Bangor Head, as a non-button man, you'd be definitely going to number 1 hatch, because the plumb job would be, say, number 3 hatch and number 4 hatch, where the newsprint was, which would be better paying job. And when you were in the raid, once those 2 hatches were read for, you scattered out of the raid by the button man, because they had maybe something else in mind that they didn't want to particularly work number 1 hatch. But when you went down, you were a very, very old type of ship. And the decks were, say, about so high up. And you get up on the deck, there was canvas covers that you had to reel back first. You've often seen it at Wimbledon, that the people, when it starts to rain, the way they pull the covers. Well, these covers, there was about 2 or 3 covers, had to be stripped off the hatch first. Then underneath that, you had hatch boards. They all had to be stripped off. They were about 9 feet in length and 3 feet wide. They're pretty heavy, because we didn't want to be shipped in during bad weather. And then when you had that done, you had the beams across that these all rested on, and you had to pull these back. You were nearly doing a day's work before you actually started working the cargo. So that was the reads. Then you work till 10 o'clock, go for a tea break, and there was very little in the canteens then, maybe a cup of tea. If you had been lucky enough to bring a sandwich yourself, your ma at that time make you a sandwich going out in the morning. I made it the night before, and you take it with you the next morning. But that'd be about it. So you'd be nearly just to get your cup of tea, and you'd be back to the job again. At 1 o'clock, you'd be told you're working late. So when you were told you were working late, that could be any time, 6, 7, 8. And it'd be at the employer's discretion at any time during that period to say, right lads, get up, go home. Or if they give you a finishing rate, they thought the ship was going to finish. There was no chance of finishing the ship, but they just give you a finishing rate just to cover themselves, that you could even work you later, up to 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So this was a usual routine with them, rules with them to get you to, the overtime would be at their discretion all the time. And you couldn't say no, we're only working at this particular time, because you'd be left in the raid the next day. Whatever little work you were getting, if you didn't do the overtime that you're being told to do, you were getting the black mark against yourself, and you weren't going to be employed the next time you stood in the raid. So nearly all the ferry finished at 6:30. The buses were long gone. So when you were finished at 8 or 9 in the night, it was a difficult place to get out of. And along with that, it was a dirty job. You didn't go into a washroom or locker rooms to change your clothes or have a wash before you made your way home. You just brush yourself off as best you could and made your way home as best you could. Maybe one of the lads might have a car, or a few fellas to get together, maybe get a taxi if you had a few about. But 9 times out of 10, you're probably walking up the quay. If it was on this side, but if you're around the ocean pier, you had a good way to travel before you even made your way up the Annesley Bridge to get a bus, another bus maybe out north side, or a bus into town to take you back to Ringsend. So there's a whole lot of difficulties in relation to trying your work to and getting home at night. Then again, you have a wash, and you'd be time for bed, you'd be only in bed, out again the next morning, the same thing over again. So you're basically on call 7 days a week, the maximum amount of hours. And you had to do it while the work was there, because you couldn't get a run where there'd be weeks that you wouldn't get a job. So whatever overtime or anything else that was gone, you took it. And we were glad of it to keep you away from the labour. The labour was another system that you had to have so many stamps or to qualify. I think you had to keep yourself in benefit, 13 weeks stamps or to keep yourself in benefit. If you ran out of stamps, you had to apply for the assistance. It wasn't too bad for if you were single and all that, you know, you were able to manage. Your mother wouldn't be too anxious about how much money you gave up at home. But when you got married, there was a different story. You know, you try to keep yourself in benefit, that you always had a few bob. So basically that's more or less kind of paint a picture of the process that was operating on the docks up to 1971 when decasualisation came in, and was a vast improvement for everybody. And as Paddy pointed out, there were people who were probably in the first gang in different companies and were getting the best of work. There's no way that they want to upset the apple cart by sharing the goods with anybody else. But the vast majority of men could see the benefit of decasualisation, where you wouldn't be having to go down in the morning time and look up at the men's faces, and maybe because maybe they had a sick head in the morning, you were left standing there for no particular reason. So it was a far better situation from 1971. It didn't solve all the problems. There were a lot of problems with decasualisation, but it eventually developed into a system that people got used to it and you could see the benefit of it, and it worked pretty well. But there was still plenty of room for improvement in relation to the hours and the overtime and the system, where eventually they had to tell you, okay, you're working till 6 o'clock or you're working till 8 o'clock, that you could make plans. Because before that, all the jobs that you were going to be told to work late, they always ended up on an anniversary or a birthday or something like that. You were told, oh, you're doing that on purpose. You know? I remember one incident where a neighbour of mine called to the house about 10 o'clock at night looking for me. And the wife opened the door and says, Paddy there. He says, no, he's working late. So I said, what time is he working till? 6, 7 or 8. This is about 10 o'clock at night. So that's the way the system worked. And I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into the docks. You look down there now and you look down, you think that's the whole docks, but it's not. There's a vast amount of area way down beyond that again. So thank you for
So since we formed this group, we've been very lucky. So here around 35 years ago, Don Bennett and a group of students went down and they interviewed dockers, and they also interviewed dockers' wives. I'd give anything to get the paperwork from the dockers' wives. They claimed they mislaid them, but I'm not sure about that. But one of the things they came across was a song written by a docker called Bill Preston. And I'm told that Bill Preston had the possibility of a button, but he decided not to take it. And very few men made that decision. He decided not to take the button. And he kind of paid for it then, because he had the injustice of not being picked. So he wrote a song where he names the foreman and he gently slags them off. And this song was only discovered recently, and Dara very kindly has put it to music. And this is the first what would you call it?
Rendition.
This is a debut, once in a lifetime,
World
first
premiere.
ever. Not putting any pressure on it.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
I got it right.
Very good.
As I was walking down the beach on a bright and sunny day, I saw a ship for Downey, it was floating in the bay. But when I went to stand in the reading, much to my surprise, I saw a gang of button men swarming round like flies. There was Tom St. John and Oxo, Shoulders, Bill and Paul. There was enough relations there to lift it on the wall. And this is what they said to me, "Are you a button man?" I said, "Stick your job up your bum-de-bum," and I turned around and ran. I went to Paddy Nolan, a gentleman is he. He'll even give your mate a hand when you are at your tea. But when I asked him for a job, this was all he had to say: "I'll be reading here at 10 o'clock, I've an oar-boat on the way." At 2 o'clock that afternoon at Patsy Kelly's reed, he said to Kevin Kelly, "There's a man what needs a feed." Said Kevin then to Patsy, "Well, he needs one, there's no doubt. We'll have to give this man a job, so we'll put him singing out." I went on board the Hazel, my heart was full of joy, and the song I sang for the inside men was the Wild Colonial Boy. Well, I heard a voice behind me, lads, it was a terrible roar, saying, "Take your coat and get off this boat and don't come back no more." I wandered round for years and years, a victim of me fate, until I met St. Peter, he was standing at the gate. He said, "Come in, you're welcome here," and showed me where to go. "You'll find all of your friends inside, but the button men down below." Well, I stayed in heaven a couple of years, the truth to you I'll tell. And when I got my holidays, I went to visit hell. And the button men that were down there were nearly up the pole, 'cause Tiger O'Brien was doing boss that day, and he had them shoveling coal.
There's one for to drive it, one for to guide, four to fill it in the darkness inside. And you'll work like a miner, shoveling coal, scraping the floor deep down in the hold. I'm telling you, Jack, life's not the same when you spend your day loading that 100-ton